My name is Ricky, and I am the production director here at the church. So welcome to church on this Sunday morning. It's a little cool outside, just a little. It'll be 130 degrees in no time for sure. But anyways, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. If this is your first time, as you walked in, you should have received a bulletin. And in that bulletin, you should find a connection card. Anytime during the service, just fill that out. And after service, go to the connection desk outside. We have a gift for you just for coming, for being here with us today, just as say thank you. Now, just a rundown of service today. So worship will start here in about 1 minute and 41 seconds. And then our women's minister, Rebecca Greebon, and one of our elders, Sean Bowers, is going to come and talk about their experience at camp. Our youth just got back from camp this week, and it was a fun time for them. You'll hear all about that a little bit later. But just a couple other announcements. Right after third service today, we'll have our baptism down at the river. And then, ladies, make sure to mark your calendars for August 5th, I believe it is, for your Bait the Hook. But other than that, in about a minute, we'll get started with worship with Oscar and Son.
Good morning. This is Sharon, by the way. I'm Oscar. Yes. It's good to be here today. Since it is two of us this morning, we thought we'd kind of scale it back a bit. And just as a reminder to sometimes take a break, take a rest. That you don't need to go 190 miles an hour all the time. And I know that's hard going from 190 outside if you got kids and stuff like that coming in here to 30. But it's okay to just come in and sit, relax, rest, listen, reflect, sing if you want to sing. So as always, you're invited to stand. But like I said, if you feel like you've been doing that all day, you've been doing it all week, and you just want to rest. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Let's sing that. You give life. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. And great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Yes. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are
We worship you, Jesus. We give you our all. Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes, a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Yeah, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, by your blood, we thank you for the cross. Let's just thank him together. What a Savior. what a Savior. Isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah. Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is wonderful. Sing hallelujah. Christ is risen. Sing out. Oh, what a Savior. Isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah. Christ is risen. Yes, Jesus. Bow down before Him, for He is wonderful. Sing hallelujah. Christ is Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. So thankful, Jesus, for your blood that you freely give. Doesn't matter what we're going through, He loves us just as we are. And you are always welcoming us back into your presence and your loving arms. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me with His love for me. Yes, His love for me. When the sun sets free, all is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, His ransom paid, His grace was due. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I'm chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not
forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. So today we're going to hear about the youth. And there were some trials and tribulations that happened this weekend. I should say in the entire week. And initially, I like to have something when I come into church, something I like to speak about to you all. And I really had nothing this morning, and it was the words of this next song that really, it's what spoke to me. It's what said, remember the youth. Remember what they went through this weekend. And that you can take the time to step back and realize that it's not all about you all the time. And that's something spectacular with youth, right? Because I've got 2 little girls. And right now, it's all about them. And I remember when I was 18, it was the same kind of thing. I lived with my aunt and my uncle for a short time in college. And my cousin, she was 3 years old. And there were special times, but there were also times where it was me, 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 me. And that was the wrong way to go about me, me, me. Instead, if I'd spent more time, as I should have, with the Bible or just speaking with the Lord, He would have reminded me that it's okay to be selfish at times, but it's a lot better to be selfless. I fall down upon the ground, press my face against the earth, till my heart it rises over my head. And as the weed it bows down low, when the autumn wind blows, I kneel before the one I love. Find me grateful, or find me thankful, or find me on my knees. Find me dreaming, or find me singing, or find me lost in your grace. Like the dust that you first held in a garden where you knelt, or pull me up against your face again, until the breath of your hold fill the depths of my soul, till all I know is I've been found by love. Find me grateful, find me thankful, find me on my knees, find me dreaming, find me singing, find me lost in your grace. depths of my soul. So all I know is I've been found by love. Find me grateful, find me thankful, find me on my knees, find me dreaming, find me singing, find me lost in your grace, find me grateful, find me thankful, find me on my knees. Lord, thank you. I say it every time, but I thank you every time for being in my life and reminding me that it's okay to be selfless and it's okay to just be on my knees and serve others. In your name, amen.
Well, good morning, River City. How are y'all this morning? Good. Man, y'all sound good. Wish I sounded that good. You may have noticed I am not Jason, and this is not Jason.
Not Jason.
So let me introduce myself. I'm Sean Bowers. I'm an elder here at the church and part of the teaching team. So that means every once in a while they turn me loose on mic, but usually only for short times because I may say something stupid at any moment. And with me today is...
Hi, I'm Rebecca Greebon. I'm the director of women's ministry here, and they also turn me loose on mic every once in a while for short bursts.
For short bursts?
Yeah, and they put us up here together this morning.
Yep, and we had to check each other to make sure that we were going to behave. And we're actually here to talk to y'all. This past week, we had the pleasure of pleasure's an interesting word. We had the pleasure of going with the youth to camp. Woohoo! At Alto Frio this past week. And as part of that, we feel like, as a church, it's very, very important to connect. We have kind of these different spheres that exist. We have big church for grown-ups, and we have children's ministry for the kiddos, and then we have our youth ministry. And we feel like anytime we can connect what's going on in those different places, it's really, really important to our growth and development spiritually as a whole. So this week, we wanted to give you all kind of a taste of this whole youth camp thing that we did. And I feel like one of the best ways to do that is a lot of times just to visually show you some of the things that went on. So we took some pictures. This is the first picture. This is what it was like when we arrived at camp on Monday. There was a deer, and it was green and lush. It's beautiful. You can hear that little, whatever song that is they play whenever you see a deer in the flowers. Y'all are hearing it in your head right now, I'm sure. And then on Tuesday, it was like this. We actually ran out of water at camp this year. I don't mean like a little bit ran out of water or a water main broke or a pipe broke at a camp. They're on a well system and the wells ran dry, right? Like an Old West movie. We were out of water. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but it definitely, Waterpocalypse 2018 took place this year, and it was interesting. Let me show you all the next picture of camp. This is a cabin upon arrival. Beautiful, pristine. I mean, I want to lay down and take a nap. It's really, really nice. This was the cabin when we left. And that's a slight, that was the best picture. That's kind of an understatement of what took place.
That's the boys' cabin,
That's the
by
boys'
the way,
cabin,
I'm
yeah.
going to say.
Yeah. Okay, next picture. This is one of your kids on the way to camp. Right? So beautiful, so perfect. Someone told us not to feed them or there was no water. We don't have to worry about that. But food after midnight. And these are your kids at camp participating in worship. We had to keep our hands clear of the mouth area, but they were pretty moving. It still sounded pretty good. Let me show you the next picture here. This is us. As a matter of fact, I had those sunglasses for 18 seconds before I lost them at camp this year, which is a new record, so that was great. And then this is us coming out for the bus ride on the way home.
Y'all, my hair actually looked like that. I know you're laughing, but
Yeah,
it did.
I didn't shower because of the water thing, so I actually thought I had a tan when I got home. And I got in the shower, and no, still see-through. So there was that. All right, is that the last picture I took? I never can remember. Okay, so that's a little glimpse into what camp was like. It was definitely an interesting year that we had. And I'll tell you this, now that I've taken your kids there along with my fellow volunteers, there's no practical reason you should let us take your kids to this camp. We ran out of water. It's tiny. I'm serious. It was built in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, all the cabins, and I'm convinced all the men in that time period were about the size of hobbits because the showers are tiny. Not that we use those. The bathrooms are tiny. There's not a stall door anywhere. All of these men believed in vinyl shower curtains that cover up about this much of you whenever you're anywhere. So it's an interesting camp to take your kids to, and I kind of get caught up in that stuff sometimes. All of that superficial beauty that a place has, the stuff that seems so important but really, really isn't. And I will tell y'all, one thing that I learned at this camp as I watched the kids was God doesn't often show up in practical or logical or ways that we would think of, right? He shows himself in different ways. I think of the story of Elijah. When he met God on the mountaintop, there was a hurricane, strong wind, a fire, all those things you would expect to see God in, but it was a whisper, the small voice of God that Elijah finally found God in. And here at this camp, we found this out pretty much in a hurry. It was Tuesday. We started hearing rumors that the water main had broken, which I was like, I don't think this place has a water main. So we were called into an emergency camp counselor meeting where they tell us the well has run dry. And I start shifting into my logical brain because I'm a science teacher. I pull out my phone and I look at the forecast because they said, really the only solution for a well problem like this is rain. So I break out the phone, I look at the forecast. The highest percentage chance we had of rain the whole time we were there was 4%. Right, so we prayed for rain and we prayed for God's solution and provision. And I thought, it's not going to happen. It's not going to rain over the next few days. There's no way. I mean, look at the forecast. I'm not doubting God, but seriously, science people. So while I'm focused on the thing that you would expect, the thing that you would see, God was working on like 1,000 different levels at the same time. Let me tell you some of the stuff that happened during water apocalypse. First thing that happened was the food service provider for the camp, Benny Keith. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere, y'all. They're in San Antonio. They got pallets of water and 75 large 5-gallon bottles out to us within 4 hours of finding out that we had no more water. Those 5-gallon buckets enabled us, the water cooler thing, you know, those enabled us to be able to flush the toilets for the kids, something that basic. And what happened with that process initially was they would give you a 5-gallon bucket. We had 2 toilets in our cabin, both 2.5 gallons. So 1 flush on each toilet. So we would flush the toilets and then put the bucket back out on the front porch. And all of these volunteers they have at that camp who are teenage and college-age kids who come out there and work all summer for free and serve and serve and serve. For about 13 hours, they loaded those bottles back on the back of a pickup truck, went down to the river, refilled them with water, and brought them back to us. Right? A lengthy process. So we had some concerns about whether or not that was sustainable. Well, while I'm going, this isn't sustainable. I'm doing the math in my head. We'd need 8 bottles for the next 12 hours in order to be able to flush X number of times. Some local ranchers showed up with their trucks, their pickup trucks with water tanks on the back that they used to take out to their cattle. And they started taking those down to the river and filling those up and then filling our bottles at the cabin. So that expedited that, which helped a great deal. And then overnight, while we were all sleeping, the Lakey Volunteer Fire Department cleaned out 2 of their water trucks because wells can't have chemicals go inside of them. So they took everything out of their water trucks, filled them up with city water, and started pumping those back into our wells. So that next morning when we got up, we could wash our hands and we could flush toilets on a regular basis, which was awesome, but we were still in no showers. Well, then some more ranchers had heard about it there in the area, and they sent in those giant, like 600-gallon water tanks from their ranches. Needed a place to put those, so one of the churches there at the camp, Pearsall, had a guy who's a member of their church who owned a trucking company. He sent up 2 semi-trucks with flatbed trailers to be able to store those water tanks on. So all of a sudden, we were able to pump that water in addition and have it as a surplus, and that meant showers.
Alternating for 2 minutes per person, alternating cabins, but still, we had some showers.
It was pretty amazing. So there I was thinking in my logical brain what was going to happen. Let me tell y'all. I'll also tell y'all, Rebecca and I had an idea of what our sermon would be this week going into camp. This is not it, right? God showed up with something totally different. And I kind of had that realization after I wrote this journal entry the next morning. I'll read y'all my journal. It says, no water at camp yesterday. Lots of yuckiness physically. So much beauty spiritually. God protected our kids' hearts, and they continue to focus on seeking him, not on the stuff, the storm around them. They have fixed their eyes on Jesus. They will not sink into the waves. Thank you, Jesus. Lord, thank you for the community that came together and were your hands and feet. I looked for rain. I looked at the odds. I thought of science. You provided acts of service, people, love, and provision. So we saw this take place before our eyes, and I will tell y'all, it's hard to read teenagers, but all of a sudden it's like it spoke directly into their hearts too. Right? They saw this community surround. I mean, these people, for your 800 kids that were out there, your kids included, they just started providing and taking care of them without hesitation, as quickly as they could. And what we saw happen after that was we began to see a community build within our kids. They've always liked each other. It's always been pretty tight, but it was a whole different level this year. Rebecca likes to say tribe, right? We began to see tribe form. We had 35 kids go with us this year. I don't know, for y'all, I have a high schooler and a middle schooler of my own, and if they are in the room for more than 40 seconds, they are going to fight with each other about something. We had 35 kids in the heat, without water, in really bad conditions, and they poured into each other. We saw relationships build. There was no arguing or fighting, no middle school, high school. They were just there together. And actually, the morning after Water Apocalypse, this verse was in our Bible study. And I want to share it with y'all because I feel like we saw it so clearly in what happened at camp. It's Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And to see that in such a real way, we couldn't have planned that. We couldn't have simulated that. God had a unique experience for the kids, and it was amazing to watch them grow. We've shown you a little bit of what it looks like and a little bit of what kind of the feel was. Rebecca's going to walk y'all through a little bit of what the kids actually learned this week.
So like Sean said, it was an incredible week. And you know, you always go into youth camp with a little bit of trepidation because it's weird. It's a weird, first of all, this is the one time a year where you will ever see Sean and I on stage like in the same outfit. So it's a little weird. We also... His hair will do this. Also, we don't actually know what these shirts mean. They just put a geometrical design on it that looks like a carbon chain, but they never told us what it meant. I'm sure it means something. But should you choose to ask us, we will not be able to answer that particular question. So you go in to youth camp always knowing you're going to have like some weird moments, right? Because it's like taking 35 3-year-olds with hormones on a bus to a remote location. And so you go in with this might go wrong, and this could go wrong, and we have to watch this. It did not ever occur to us that the wells would run dry at camp, so that was a new one for us. But you kind of try to prep yourself for the experience. And like Sean said, we kind of had an idea of what we were going to do. We knew sort of the theme. After the first day, we knew like the main verse, and so we were like, okay, this is going to be our sermon. This is what we're going to do. And God went, nope, not what I'm saying to you. Not what I'm saying to you all. And it was interesting for me because, like Sean said, tribe is kind of like my thing. It's one of my favorite things to teach on and write about and preach on. In fact, our women's retreat this past May was tribe. It's such a big deal to me. And it was almost like God went, honey, so you preach about this to the women, and you've talked about how it's phenomenally important. Do you think it is less important for these kids to learn this? Do you think it is ever too early to learn this tribe lesson? Let's make it clear to you that it's not. And so watching them do this and watching them learn the word together was such a joy and an honor. And so we had like worship every night. And Wednesday night was kind of the big kicker for our group and where our big takeaway and changes happened. And the theme throughout and kind of the culmination of that was to talk about the fact that the path to true joy is found in the pursuit of God. The path to true joy is found in the pursuit of God. And what that looks like is once you make that crucial choice, once you decide to know the truth, to accept that the promise is real and that the love is real, run to the cross. Just run without hesitation, without detours, without stopping for anyone or anything. Run straight to the cross as fast as you can. And that was really one of the topics that he drove home and that really hit home with our kids. He talked about the fact that the pursuit of God involves a fiery repentance, a fervent response, and a fiery resolve that you will not go back to the way things were. That once you hear and believe that truth and start running, you can't go back to the way things were. Because the right response to God's mercy is a fiery resolve to pursue God with a community of believers. So not to just run after him, but to run with a community of believers. It's our response to his pursuit of us. And then he talked about what was my favorite phrase from the entire week. He said, let me tell you something, students. Compromise elsewhere. Compromise elsewhere. There are times in your life you got to compromise. There are times in your life you got to buy off-brand. There are times in your life where you are going to have to shift a little bit outside of what you thought. In this, that does not happen. Compromise is not an option for anybody, ever. And I loved that he said that because it was such a strong phrase. And then he asked him two very interesting questions. He said, question number one, what's stopping you? What do you need to let go of because it is weighing you down? It is preventing you from running headlong to the cross. What is it that's got to go? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a habit? Is it a hobby? Is it a circumstance? Is it a location? Is it something you see on your phone? What is stopping you? And how are you going to let go of it? And then his second question to them was this: who's helping you? Who's going to make up that community of believers that's going to run with you to the cross, that's going to take you there, that's going to help carry you when you need it? And I thought this was so incredibly interesting. So Wednesday night after this lesson, we all went back to our room. So we had this common room, and all 35 of us go into this room, and we did an activity with the kids. And I said, okay, guys, you heard the lesson. We talked about it, like what effect did it have on you? And we want to talk about what's stopping you. So here's what we're going to do. We're all going to take out a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you're each going to write the thing. However many things or people or habits that it is that is stopping you, I want you to write it down. Some kids wrote down one thing. Some kids wrote down 15 things because we were like, here's the deal. You don't have to show that to anybody. And God already knows what it is. So this is your act of obedience to put that out in front of him, to put that list out in front of God. Then you're going to fold it up. So they all sat, and when they got done writing it down, they all folded it up. And I said, okay, we're going to all stand up. We're going to get in a circle together. I want you to take your list of your hindrances, and you're going to put it in your right hand. So they all put their list in their right hand. And I said, okay, beautiful, it's in your right hand. Now we're going to hold hands in a circle. So now you have the visual representation of your hand with someone else's hand covering your hindrances. And you're all linked together in an unbreakable chain. I said, all right. We're going to do some praying over these hindrances. We're going to do some praying over these hindrances. And one of the things we're going to talk about is going to come out of Hebrews. One of my very favorite Bible verses is Hebrews 12:1. And so we stood there and we walked out 12:1. And I love Hebrews 12:1 for a couple of reasons. Yes, I love what it says, but I love how it starts. Therefore. Let me tell you something about the word therefore. That is a get ready for action kind of word. When in Scripture you see the word therefore, that is God going, buckle up, buttercup. You got something coming you got to do. Therefore, and the kids talked about that with us. Therefore, we repeated it together. Therefore, we said it again. Therefore, get ready because something is coming. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, straight to the cross, no hindrances. We're praying over them, and then we bowed our heads and we prayed over those hindrances for release from them For strength to recognize them and then stand up against them. For courage to know that if it's a person or a habit, sometimes you're going to make a person a little angry when you decide that it's stopping you from heading to the cross. We prayed over all those things, and then I said, okay, now here's what we're doing next. I want you to release your right hand, open it up. So now your right hand's empty, and your left hand is holding the hindrances of the person next to you. You've handed it off to him. And we're not going to look at them, right, because it was a promise. Nobody's going to look at this. But here's what we did. We stood together in a circle, and we watched as the person next to you, standing on your left, shredded your list of hindrances into tiny pieces until they were insignificant, until they could not form words, they could not form sentences. Most of them shredded them tiny enough that it wasn't even letters. And then we said, we want you to walk to the middle of the room where we'd placed a trash can, you and your partner, and I want you to watch that partner throw the confetti of your hindrance into the garbage. And we stood outside that circle and we watched those beautiful kids throw each other's hindrances away physically. And then they decided to take it a step further because they're teenagers and they always take things a step further. Seriously, I've got a couple of them. And they came and they gathered up that bag and they came running over to where we were standing in the corner. They said, hey, we came up with an idea and we want to know if this is okay. Can we take this bag with all these hindrances and can we just take it all the way out to the dumpster so it's not even in our room? Why, yes. Yes, you can. And they carried that trash bag out together, and they linked up together, and with smiles on their faces as a group, they ran out of that room all the way to the dumpster and dumped it and came back to a hindrance-free room. In that moment, together, they were the community of believers. While we were standing in that circle, question number 2 is, who's going to help you, right? Who's going to be the ones that help you? We said, all right, this is what you're going to do. I want you to look to your right. They all looked to the right. I said, I want you to look to the left. They all looked to the left. I said, I want you to look across the circle. They all looked across the circle. I said, this is answer to question number 2. Who's going to help you? Who's going to run your race with you? Who's your community? You just found answer number 1 to that right here in this room with the people that are going to shred up your hindrances. I'm going to say this to you, church. I'd like all of you to look to your right. Go ahead, you can do it. Look to the right. I want you all to look to the left. I want you to look at the people behind you. I want you to look up to the people in front of you. This is answer number 1 to question 2 for you as well. Absolutely. Do you know that we have the youth lining the walls, so included in that is them, by the way. We have a responsibility to them and to each other to understand that that kind of power and that kind of tribe does not end when you walk out of a bubble. It goes with you. And when we tell you that you're the church of today, because you are, we mean you're the church of today with us and entangled in us. And you are part of the community that runs our race with us. It was such an honor to watch them have that light bulb go on, for some of them for the first time, and to figure out how good it felt to run that trash out as a crew and to get that visualization. I'll tell you, it was an odd week. It was a stressful week. It was a disgusting week. I actually got to take a ride in an ambulance with one of our kids who managed to scare us to death. She was fine. Everything was cleared. She came back to camp. Managed to ride in an ambulance with her. Not the funnest part of my week. We were so gross when we got to the hospital, the nurses and doctors would actually not make eye contact with me. And when she stood up, when we got done and her CT scan was clear, and praise Jesus, she was fine. When she stood up, the hospital bed thing she'd be laying on, the sheet. Do y'all remember Pigpen from the Charlie Brown commercials? It looked like Pigpen had been laying down in this. It was the most disgusting thing, and I did not have the heart to look at those doctors and nurses and be like, hey, P.S., when I take her back, I'm not going to shower her. Because they wouldn't have let her leave with me. It was an odd week. And while all of those things contributed to making it unforgettable, they are not what actually defined it as unforgettable. The tangibles were not the point. The intangibles, that's where the punches pack the most power. Absolutely. That's where the God moments happened and the growth kicked in. That's where we found our fire and our identity. It always is. It always is in the stuff that you can't see or touch or explain. And I hope this morning, between our word pictures, we have painted a feeling of what they went through. We have painted a feeling of how they grew. We have painted a feeling of our hope and our expectation and of your role as well as ours. Because even though you were not with us physically, as a church body, as a community, as a group that's going to run with perseverance this race, you were with us. And so what we want to do now is bring to you the best way to see exactly how that felt through the eyes of those who were actually the star of the week.
Ricky, am I going to be on TV?
Come on. So I've been in full-time ministry for 15 years. I started as a youth pastor, so I've seen a lot of youth groups up close and personal. And I just want to tell you, River City, this is special. It really is. The thing when you watch those things, and y'all come up, if y'all make room for everybody, y'all come on, y'all crowd up. I'm not afraid. Hi, Brendan. When you see that, you can't tell who's junior high, who's high school. There's boys and girls all mixed together. Well, that's what the week was like. And it just happened. And so you're sitting here going, I don't have teenagers, or I don't know any teenagers, whatever. What does this mean to me? Well, the thing for me is maybe you're at a place where the well is just dry for you. And you're praying for rain, and you're praying for rain, and you're going, God, there's no rain, in the forecast, there's only 4% of rain, and oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because that was me and Sean, like on Tuesday night, right? When Sean's telling you, we're literally, we need 45-gallon buckets and 5, no way, it doesn't work. And so you're sitting there praying for rain, and what God does is send you a tribe. He changes the way you look at your world, and he changes the way that you look at your circumstances and your situations. And I want you guys to know, you taught me that. And I'm like a professional Christian. That's what I do, right? It's like my job. That's how I go. But the way that you handled difficulty with grace, you were a teacher for me this week. So here's what I say to us when we say this. This isn't the church of tomorrow. This is the church today. Because I don't know if you saw it when that last song came on, they started bouncing, right? And you just see, like, you feel the room kind of starting to move. They worshiped with abandon. Because when you're in tribe and when you're together, tribe defines what's cool. And they worshiped, and they got saved, and they encouraged each other, and they carried each other's burdens. We talked last week, we kind of started a series about our values and what we are as a church, and we said we're a church for New Braunfels. And that can mean a lot of things, but let me tell you one thing that it certainly means, something that's on my heart, something that's embedded in the DNA of who we are. If we're going to truly be a church for New Braunfels, we have to be a church for the next generation. And not just create a space down the hall where they can come, but getting in their lives and loving them and helping them and serving them and learning from them, because they're incredible. They're incredible, incredible people. And so if you don't know a teenager, I would really invite you, fill that hole in your life, because they're exceptional. This isn't the future. This is the present. And I spent a wonderful week learning from them. Dirty. We were dirty. It was gross, right? I'd smell. We walked into Dairy Queen at the end, and I just felt so bad for all the Dairy Queen people. Like, who are all these young homeless vagabonds that are coming in to get? But it was a beautiful thing. If you sent your kid, I want to say thank you to you. You're doing an exceptional job, because your kids are wonderful without exception. They were an example within that camp to other students, to other churches. They were an example to me, and I think they're an example to all of us. And so we're grateful for the time that we spent. And we never want to forget, and we never want to get too far away from the lessons and the instructions that we can learn from everybody. And I'm grateful for where's Tara. Tara's right there, and she went as well. And Rebecca and Sean and Desiree is on vacation, much hard-earned vacation. But they gave and gave and gave and served and served and served and loved and loved and loved, and it was a beautiful thing. So one of the things that we want to do to make sure that we are not just having a camp high, but that this continues, that we take this experience and it gets involved in our lives, is we have youth. They came up from youth ministry. While we were away at camp, some of you may have been, last week there was a guy walking around with a goatee. His name was Steve Teal. Steve Teal's an exceptional guy, and we have hired him to be our youth pastor, to come in and begin taking this. And he's an exceptional guy with lots of passion and a lot of vision. And he's out of town right now, but we wanted to announce it here while we're talking about this. And when he gets back, we'll introduce him, and you'll get to know him. And I think you'll be excited about what he and his family bring to the table. And we announced it to the youth so they were first to know. We care about young people. They are an integral part of what we do. They are what's going to happen when we're 40, 50 years down the road. This is what's going to be there. And so thank you again for trusting us. I'd like to pray for us and pray for the youth and pray for you as parents. Lord, I thank you for this week, and I thank you for unexpected instruction. And I thank you for the unbelievably beautiful young lives that you used to bring that lesson. I thank you for the grace with which they handled difficulty. And Father, I pray for the wisdom and the grace to respond in the same way that they did. And as we begin to look towards the end of summer and the beginning of school, Father, I pray that this bond of tribe that you've started, this connection that you've placed in their lives, I pray that it will continue to grow and that it will continue to flourish. And Lord, I know if you want to change a community, change a school. If you want to change families, change teenagers, change kids. And we have asked, Father, that New Braunfels would be different because we're here, because you've started this thing here, Father. And I pray that we would follow the lead of these amazing young people. And I pray that we would instruct them with wisdom, but that we would also learn from them with humility and with grace. I pray for every teacher and administrator in this room, and I ask that as we get ready to go back to school, Father, I pray that you would bless them and rekindle in their hearts a passion for these young people. I pray for the families, for the parents and the grandparents and the brothers and sisters. Father, I pray that we would truly be different because of what you started this week, and we know that you can do it. And we thank you. I thank you for every life on this stage and the ones who aren't here and the ones who will come. I pray for Steve and his wife, Chris, that you would give them wisdom as they prepare and as they come, Father, and that we will truly see something unbelievable happen. So, Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the ways that you provide and the ways that you lead us. And we ask all these things, Jesus, in your name. Amen. Hey, they're going to stay here real quick. Can we love on them a little bit as we go? I'm going to dismiss us, but as they go, let's show them our appreciation. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift his countenance and give you peace. Let's celebrate these guys.